Two True Creepy Krampus Redemption, A Tale of Lessons Learned. Story 1: The Haunted Hospital Ward. I came to Japan to work as a nurse in a post-surgical unit. Patients travel hundreds of miles for surgeries at our hospital, known for its skilled surgeons. But what we didn't share with them was the hospital's chilling secret. It was haunted. Strange events had sent shivers down my spine, some reducing me to hysterical fits of screaming. A few months ago, a patient claimed she saw a woman in a red kimono standing by her bed, watching her all night. The patient couldn't see the woman's face, obscured by long, black hair. "Where did you see her?" I asked. The terrified patient pointed at the curtains. I pulled them back, revealing an empty room with no visitors or staff nearby. Even more disturbingly, another patient reported the same experience weeks later when left alone in the same room. "Did you see her face?" I asked the second patient. "No, but I saw something else," she quivered. "What did you see?" I inquired. Her head touched the ceiling. Her neck stretched unnaturally high, like a snake, she whispered. My skin crawled. It was 2:30 in the morning, and exhaustion from consecutive night shifts weighed on me. I gave the patient some medicine to help her sleep and decided to stay awake in the ward. There were 6 beds, but only one patient. The rest were neatly made, waiting for temporary occupants. I grabbed a magazine and sat down, but drowsiness crept in. Ignoring the hospital rules, I lay down for a quick nap. I lost track of time when I heard running footsteps on the wooden floor. Startled, I sprang up and scanned the ward, finding it empty. Just as I was about to call out, I heard a woman's chuckling voice. The door remained closed, confirming it was inside the room. "Mrs. Tameka, are you sleepwalking again?" I asked, fearing the worst. With no response, I switched on my phone's flashlight and saw her, a woman in a red kimono. Her face remained hidden, but her eerie smile was unmistakable. I tried to call my mother, but the call disconnected. I turned back to see the woman's feet under a bed. When I looked up, she vanished. Confused and terrified, I fainted. I left that job, and later I learned about an urban legend called Rokurokubi, vengeful spirits that roam the night. I knew I'd never return to that hospital. A week ago, I moved to Pittsburgh with my dad. He had a new job, and I had to leave my old life behind. Moving to a new city during the school year was tough for me, a shy nerd who struggled to make friends. I attended a top-notch school where the kids weren't exactly friendly. On my first day, I heard a terrifying story about our school, about Charlie, a faceless man who roamed the town, abducting and killing girls. I dismissed it as a mere urban legend. One night, I saw a man outside our house, hooded with horns. It was Charlie, or so I thought. I called my dad, and he went out to check, but no one was there. He assured me it was just my imagination. The next day, 2 friends, Karen and Amelia, told me about their friend who had gone missing. She had mentioned seeing Charlie before she disappeared. We decided to investigate. In an abandoned tunnel, we split up to find Karen. I found a locked door, but it suddenly opened, and Charlie stood before me. I ran and escaped, but I couldn't shake the feeling that Charlie was still out there. The police searched the tunnel, but found nothing. That night, I heard noises, and Charlie was back. My dad saved me, and we called the police, who arrested him. I thought it was over, but then I saw Charlie outside the jail cell, and he told me, "You're not on the good list." I realized I'd never misbehave again, as the legend of Krampus felt all too real. Story 2. As I lay there, on the cell floor, terrified, I couldn't help but think about that night at the hospital. The image of the woman in the red kimono, with the grotesque, elongated neck, haunted my thoughts. My parents came to pick me up from the hospital after my fainting episode, and I was diagnosed with a severe fever. My grandmother, a local resident, explained that Japanese folklore spoke of vengeful spirits called rokurokubi, who wandered the night, seeking to quench their thirst for blood. It made sense in a morbid way, explaining the bleeding mouth of the woman I had encountered. Though I had escaped her clutches that night, the memory still sent shivers down my spine. I knew that I would never set foot in that hospital again, haunted by the chilling experience. As I sat in that jail cell, my heart still racing from the encounter with the sinister Krampus, I vowed never to misbehave again. The legend had taken on a terrifying reality that I couldn't ignore. The faceless creature had come after me, and I had narrowly escaped his clutches. The police officer returned to my cell, eyeing me with suspicion. "You sure you're okay, kid?" I nodded, not daring to mention the chilling presence of Krampus outside. I knew that I had to stay on the good list from now on, or else there might not be another chance to make amends. Days turned into weeks, and the incident with Krampus became a distant, haunting memory. I had learned my lesson the hard way. The legend was no mere urban myth, it was a chilling reality that could come to life. As Christmas approached once more, I couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. Krampus was out there, lurking in the shadows, ready to punish those who strayed from the path of goodness. I had narrowly escaped his clutches once, and I was determined never to tempt fate again. The holiday season passed without incident, and I stayed on my best behavior. I knew that Krampus was always watching, waiting for any sign of misbehavior. I had learned the hard way that some legends were all too real, and I had no intention of crossing paths with Krampus ever again. Months went by, and I remained on my best behavior, determined not to attract the attention of Krampus or any other supernatural entity. I kept my grades up, helped my dad with household chores, and even volunteered at a local charity. The memory of that terrifying encounter with Krampus served as a constant reminder to stay on the straight and narrow. One winter evening, as Christmas drew near once again, I found myself reflecting on the lessons I had learned. I had become a more responsible and compassionate person, thanks to the fear instilled by that eerie encounter. The legend of Krampus had changed me, and I was grateful for it, despite the terror it had initially brought. On Christmas Eve, I decided to do something special. I volunteered at a local toy drive, helping distribute gifts to less fortunate children. It was a small way of giving back, a gesture to ensure that I remained firmly on the good list. As I handed a toy to a young boy with a bright smile, I couldn't help but feel a sense of warmth and contentment. It was a far cry from the fear that had gripped me during that fateful encounter with Krampus. That night, as I lay in bed, I reflected on the past year. I had come a long way since that terrifying encounter, and I knew that I had made amends for any past misdeeds. The legend of Krampus had taught me the importance of kindness, compassion, and responsibility, and I had taken those lessons to heart. As I drifted off to sleep, I couldn't help but wonder if Krampus was still out there, lurking in the shadows. But I knew one thing for sure: I was no longer the misbehaving child he had encountered before. I had grown into a better person, determined to stay on the good list and ensure that the legend of Krampus remained just that, a legend.